Okay, right, we are live, and we are at Umbraco Spark. And if I can rotate the camera, we'll see we have an audience. Give us a cheer, wave. Nice. We don't normally do this in front of an audience, but yeah, it's quite cool to be here. We're in Bristol in the UK. And we have some of Bristol's finest. We have Steve Temple, who is organising Spark, and we also have Jonathan Richards, who is loud. So yeah, I kind of wanted to, along the topic of Spark, which is innovation, maybe have a little conversation about where we think Umbraco's going. And I know Jonathan has opinions, so it'd be great to hear from him, but also to hear about how the day's going from Steve and from everyone here. And if you take part, you get an umbraCoffee mug. I have quite a few, so yeah. Cool. How do you think it's going so far?
I think it's going well, actually. We've had higher than I planned. Well, it's got more than I expected to book. So I'm pretty pleased. We got 108 confirmed attendees. So I was kind of 2 weeks after announcing, I was kind of like 12 people had bought tickets, and I was kind of bricking it. But it's gone really well. So we've pretty much sold more than we expected. Two made more than we planned for by the end of it. Yeah, so I'm really happy with the branding. I think all the feedback I've got so far has been really good. So.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Like I noticed there was like a personalized name placeholder as well as the badge.
Yeah.
When we arrived, and some really nice notebooks. People on Twitter have been saying those look awesome. It's a really great job.
Yeah, I think our policy was if it's going to be something you don't want to keep, we're not going to buy it and put it in a bag and you just throw it away when you get home. So it had to be worth keeping or not bothering. So so yeah, t-shirts I'm pretty pleased with. So I've been wearing this for 2 days now. So yeah, it's fine. It's still good.
We've kicked off the day today with some like a keynote, or it was more of a FAQs, right?
Yeah. So to be fair, Stefan had about 2 days to prepare because Kenneth, who was originally doing that slot, got had some family problems and couldn't make it. So like we desperately looked for someone to chip in, and Stefan very kindly offered to join. So that's awesome of him. But I think so he was basically putting together everything that like people are asking him on Twitter like constantly how to do stuff, and it was kind of like the stuff I get asked about how to do it. And actually I learned like 5 things on that, which is really good for
compositions.
Oh, compositions are wonderful.
Musical compositions.
No, as in the new composition, the new composition feature in V8 to register stuff.
Yeah.
I think is fantastic and is super powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's been explained properly. I was going to do something in my talk as well about that, because I think there was a lot of people who are unclear about exactly what this all meant now. How do I do what I was going to do in V7 now with V8? Stefan's cleared a lot of that up.
I think there's a lot of people that I kind of don't see. We're quite a techie agency, but I think a lot of people aren't using like dependency injection and stuff they're writing and things, and so it's all like this is all new to people. So having a little bit of that clarified as well is going to help. And unit works when it's all becomes scope, and I didn't know that, so it's useful.
Yeah, you say about dependency injection, so something that I've done for a while in my project, and as of you, and I guess
I try to.
Yeah. So, but maybe not everyone's aware of it, and it's great that this event, and now with V8 and some of the new stuff happening, it's going to start to highlight some of these technologies that have been around a while, and maybe make them a little bit more widely adopted in the Umbraco community, and moves everyone further forward. One of the best things about DI is once you've got it set up, if it's set up properly, you don't know it's there, and it just all works, and you would never really do it any other way. That's my opinion.
I think that it's one of those moments when you start using it, and you're suddenly like, oh, why haven't I? This just makes everything way more awesome. My code just kind of actually now is like twice as good as it was before, and I didn't realize. I didn't realize I missed it. I've been missing out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So. And then we had a great talk from Lee, which I was in, and it was at the same time as Paul Marden's talk on content apps, which I unfortunately wasn't in, was
I did leave.
Everyone went to leave. Well, maybe someone from the audience could share. Oh, Paul,
were you there, Paul?
Yeah, so you were talking about content apps and how do we know what a great content app looks like when they're so new?
It was 15 minutes of me talking to my mates. It was lovely.
Which is the best way to do a talk, right?
Yes.
That's so cool. And Lee was talking about headless.
Yes.
Or decoupling.
The state of decoupling.
Jamstack.
And
Jamstack.
Jamstack. That's the takeaway. Yes. Yeah, everything you want to know about decoupling Umbraco this year.
Wow, very nice. And you covered kind of not necessarily just Umbraco headless or any specific technologies. It was very broad.
More conceptual than specific.
Yeah.
Apart from Umbraco.
I think it's difficult to, because headless, from what I've read on Twitter, is changing quite massively in the next release. When it comes out, it'll be very different to how it is now. So kind of like covering that might be like, hey, this is what it looks like now, but it won't be like in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and Rasmus is, I don't think he's in the audience, but Rasmus from HQ is here, and he's working on the headless team. I'm sure if someone has any questions, they can collar him later. And
I'm really hoping that means, because he does a lot of GraphQL stuff, so
Yeah.
it's going to be GraphQL out of the box with headless. But
yeah, I'm not sure for launch, but maybe further down the line. I asked him about that yesterday. It would be fantastic to see. And I'm sure, I know Pete Duncanson's a big proponent of that, and also Rasmus worked on it.
Doing the talk on
and Laura.
GraphQL later. Big plug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think GraphQL really interesting technology because, again, it's been around a little while, but I don't think it's something that maybe crosses into the Umbraco sphere that often. And you saw Pete's talk at the UK Fest. What did you think?
I thought it absolutely revolutionary. It all went, wow, this is such a great way of talking to your front end and back end.
Totally.
So far, since that talk, not had a chance to use it.
No, absolutely not. But you're absolutely right. The first time I saw it, I was a bit skeptical. Okay, GraphQL might be quite an interesting technology. Let's see how this goes. It's so powerful and such huge potential.
Yes.
I think for the kind of 5 years time, we should be or will be using that to talk to everything.
I did a little. I played around with the GitHub GraphQL thing for update contributors on R to actually include all the contributors, because currently it doesn't. It cuts off at the first 100. I think when they built it, it was fine. And loads of people in our company are contributing, they're not showing up, and I'm like, why is that? And it turns out that there's no limit documented, but it just returns the first 100. So I was trying to get can we get everyone in there and actually do it on PRs instead of merge commits?
Yeah.
Master or what it was, Dev V7 or whatever the version was, because it actually was missing out people that had contributed to V8 and stuff. Yeah. So, Seb, if you're listening, PR needs doing. But I think the big problem I had was actually like the .NET client side, the sort of client side end of it. So I was using .NET to talk to GraphQL. There isn't really a sort of clear winner library that lets you use GraphQL in the way you kind of expect. It's all dynamics and stuff like that. So so I ended up using REST Sharp and just bodging it. But I think that's what we need to see is sort of .NET libraries now coming around.
Yeah. And like we said, Pete spoke at a couple of events last year, 3 I think. Laura's speaking today about GraphQL. Hopefully more of these talks are going to boost up the profile of it and get everyone else a bit more interested, and then we can really, as a community, try and start adopting it. What else have we got being spoken about this afternoon? There's a lot. Let's have a look.
I've done a bit on machine learning. So AI machine learning. I use it to turn interchange wheat, even though they're not. But it's just because I don't really know anything about it. So it's one of those topics that I'm not a data scientist. I'm using it as a developer. So how can you as developers use something? You don't need to understand all the algorithms. You there's like a cheat sheet you can go through and say, hey, this is the best algorithm for doing classification in the sort of thing I'm trying to do. And most of the work involved now is that's been written for you. Microsoft and Google people have given you that. So the algorithms are there and built. It's now getting the data in the right format that it expects and actually classifying things and categorizing things to get it so it actually will give you meaningful data. That's really the effort where sort of developers need to spend their time is figuring that bit out. It's really exciting stuff. I think I've been really excited about it for so long. But yeah, it's coming mainstream and it's become really affordable in the last sort of 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Now you can do it for pennies, where it used to be like, I need £100,000 license and a big service.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've said.
I was going to say there's another talk from someone called Callum White.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about how we get from V7 to V8, and Stefan spoiled a lot of my material, but that's a joke. So yeah, just kind of how we can, what's involved in trying to get a site over from V7 to V8, which is going to be quite technically in depth, and perhaps
Are
stuff
you
will
doing
go wrong.
live migration?
There's going to be some live migration.
Just watch the upgrade of a fail.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it absolutely could fail, but that's a key topic at the moment, I think, as well. That we've now got this fantastic technology in V8, but how we get there and how we start using it and adopting it is a bit of a challenge at the moment, because I think you need a very forgiving client and someone that's willing to pay for it, and you're going to also need a business case for it. Really, why should you be upgrading? Do you need the features that V8 is going to give you?
And are you going to do it in 8.0? Are you going to wait for 8.1 or 2 or 3?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's I'll be talking about that later. So that we've said about a few different technologies here: GraphQL, AI, and V8 and the latest stuff that's coming with that. If we were to look at maybe the next 2, 3, 5 years for Umbraco, or the worldwide tech community as a whole, where do you think we should be focusing? Because this is an innovation-focused conference. Where should we be looking to for the next big thing? What should we be trying to do next? What do you think?
Well, in this short to medium term, I think the part of the reason the V8 has got so much code stripped out of it is to give you .NET Core support, so there's less code to migrate, and there's no web forms knocking about and all this sort of crap in there. So we can we can get it to if we can get rid of all that rubbish, which we have done now, then it's easier to migrate over. So I think .NET Core is it's not a huge change, but I think the performance of .NET Core and just if you developed on it, it's just works much better.
It's fantastic, and they have dependency injection natively. It's out of the box. They have, as you say, hugely performant and very easy to code with. I was pleasantly surprised going from .NET Framework to .NET Core. The concepts are very similar. The syntax is very similar. If you're doing a lot of the latest C# stuff in .NET Framework, it's all there in .NET Core. So
just the startup times of when I was doing some MVC app and did the .NET Core version, and just the build and start time, it was just it was a second rather than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So it was just developing was just so much quicker and easier.
Definitely, and for I know that right now for Umbraco, .NET Core is on the horizon, but it's not in the immediate plans because maturing and stabilizing V8 is the key right now. But as you say, V8 is a stepping stone towards that .NET Core support.
Yeah, I always thought V9 would be the .NET Core, but it might be completely.
I think that's the plan.
Yeah, V9 or maybe V10. I know from speaking to Shannon recently, they are in a position now where reasonably easily they could upgrade or update some of the Umbraco DLLs to be .NET Standard. But the most difficult one is the .web, because it depends on a load of stuff that doesn't exist in .NET Core. So it might be that we start seeing gradual support for some of the libraries. It would take 1, 2, 3 months, Shannon said, to get each one kind of properly working on .NET Standard, and then maybe we can look at getting the whole thing working.
In Stefan's talk, he was talking about I can't remember the name of it now, Object something Factory, and how you could potentially run this an Umbraco site without any website being there. So you could do that. So Azure functions or sort of serverless stuff, potentially command line instances of Umbraco. So you could use a content store in your command line, and that kind of interests me, that you could have non-website uses that not necessarily headless, but Azure functions doing stuff with content straight out of the database without having to talk to an API. You could just spin up an instance and dump all your content into something else. I think that would be really, really cool. And we'll see some other cool uses of Umbraco in out of website contexts with things like headless coming along. It's just maybe not quite how you want to do it, interacting with the DB. I think I kind of like the idea of having I looked at with headless, I looked at every time you publish a content, we actually create the view model and store that, and like I think you've done the same, store it into like Redis, and then you're just reading the view models out that pre-built, and then you could have a tiny .NET Core, super scalable, super fast, or serverless or something. You could have that kind of built, that layer, and that's talking to a Redis cache, which is super scalable. And then the umbraco thing is just publishing content and updating that.
Yeah.
But it would just be like instant changes alive, but you could have this scale to millions of like hits.
Yes, absolutely. I think, Jevon, you've done some of that in practice, and the new load balancing course, does that have any hints of that sort of stuff in it?
Not in terms of that sort of model caching, but we do that architecture.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So people are already doing it, as you say. John, where do you see Umbraco in 2 years, or where do you want to see Umbraco in 2 years?
I think we just talked about the .NET Core parts but we need to get out, stop using Angular, what's it, 1.1.19 or something we're using. Yeah. And then what are we going to replace that with? Is it going to be the next Angular, was it 6 or something?
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
I've lost track.
Or switch to Semver, you can't keep track anymore.
Or are we going to switch to something like Vue.js, which is what Matt Brailsford has suggested in the past.
Yeah.
And then of course Pete Duncanson and his React.js.
Yes, there's a ton of different technologies out there. I know there was a discussion on Twitter a while ago about Blazor, which is a very experimental Microsoft WebAssembly based language, but there's potential that could be. I think there's no appetite from HQ right now to update it.
Well, it sounds like there's an awful lot of code in there, because it's been about, what, 5 years?
Funny you mention this. Pete's talk today, and he was describing, he's been playing around with the back office. And I think, interestingly, like the C# code gets like millions of developer eyes on it like every day. I think like everyone's looking at the C# code. Very few people are digging around the Angular code. And so like Pete's been playing around with that, and he's found, like I think he said to me that he's done one little change. He's got PR for, I think, and it's like knocked half a second off like sort of response times and stuff. I think. So it's kind of so he's talking about like stuff he's found knocking around in them, and trying to inspire people to look at that kind of look at the Angular side of things, because I think it's easy for us as mostly C# developers in the room probably that can just look at the code and go, hey, but not a lot of people looking at the Angular side.
That's very, very true. I know that Pete said quite publicly alongside HQ, there's a lot of stuff we need to do first on this Angular code base in order for us to even get it to a point where we could look at upgrading or migrating to a different language, a different framework, because there's all these optimizations we need to make. We need to actually probably fix some of the bugs in the UI and the logic that's there, refine it, clean the code base up. If the V8.NET code base has been reduced by something like 2/3, but I'm pretty sure the Angular code base is going to be the same size or growing.
The other idea is, do you stop doing it in JavaScript and do it in TypeScript, and actually, and everyone's got to start learning that, especially if they're writing packages.
Yeah, well, if you go to the new Angular, it will be TypeScript.
So there's pros and cons all the way through that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's something that HQ are keeping a close eye on, but I'd also like to see it upgraded to something. I don't want all of our Angular skills to be completely redundant, but I think, there might be.
I think it's just difficult because you can't sort of do bits and pieces migration. I think you've got to like migrate the whole thing in one big, so it's like a big job. Where if it was like you could do, I'm just going to do doc type editing in Angular 7, whatever it is, 9. It's probably gone up since I've started talking. You can't just do that little bit and upgrade that. I think you've got to do the whole thing in a one. So it's just got to be a big job, and then big jobs just don't happen.
I thought there was one point we had React.js and Angular running in the back end simultaneously. Again, so I wonder if you could have both of them.
Again, Pete's done this as one of their packages. They have a React.js powered property editor, but obviously running within an Angular.js back office, which is interesting. So maybe he'll have opinions on doing that sort of thing as well. Maybe we can start slowly migrating like the pluggable elements out to these other languages. I don't know. Let's see from Pete's talk later.
Yeah, one thing is good with Pete, he's got lots of opinions, and not afraid to share them as well. If you follow his Twitter account, that's really good, which I enjoy. He's quite critical sometimes, and I think that's quite a good thing sometimes.
Yeah, he's happy to shout from the rooftops though if he thinks something's wrong.
He's not afraid to sort of dig into HQ and say, hey, look, this is like we should be looking at this.
Yeah. So yeah, we mentioned that Pete's talking. We've got a couple of other talks. So we've said about Laura as well. We have some talks on caching, some more talks on headless, and some Azure functions and offloading stuff onto service buses and things for the rest of the day. I think we probably need to wrap up because there's other sessions starting soon. And well, from my perspective, I just want to say a massive high five, you rock, to the Umbraco Spark team at Jibe. I think we can all say that this is a fantastically well-organized conference. The venue's amazing. The view is amazing.
Yeah.
All concepts, yeah.
Yes. It's
Bristol.
Yeah, it's a fantastic view of over Bristol. So yeah, I think if you want to grab a Tim Tam, we've got some Australian biscuits down here, and also grab an umbraCoffee coaster or something. And if you've been a guest and I owe you a mug, please come and grab that as well. Yeah, I think that's it.
Cheers. Yeah.
Well,